There was that stigma, I just feel dirty. Just even though it's like I said, I wasn't sleeping around, just feel pretty gross.
It's everywhere. 70% of females and 50% of males who have it don't even know. It's a silent infection, and in New Zealand it's a big problem.
Yeah, definitely would say it's an epidemic. I mean, it's just something that people need to get tested. Like I said, I didn't know that I had it at one time. How many other people have got it now?
How could this happen? Like, you don't think about, sleeping with people and getting diseases. It's not how you think.
Chlamydia is a bacteria. It affects 1 in 10 sexually active New Zealanders. That's more than half the population of Christchurch.
It's an infection that's passed from person to person by sexual contact. So it's what we call a sexually transmitted infection, or an STI.
It's easier to get rid of than the common cold. Just 2 pills taken on a full stomach.
Most people, they're quite blasé about it. And we see people coming back 3 or 4 times with the same infection.
So many people have it now, and it's not that big a deal to get sorted out.
One of the flip sides we've had sort of comment-wise from young people around chlamydia especially is, oh, that's okay, I'll just take a couple of pills and it'll go away. Not a problem.
Treatment is easy, but first you've got to know you have it.
Chlamydia is largely non-symptomatic, meaning that a person can have it and not be aware that they've got it.
I think if it was an STI that had symptoms and those symptoms came up fast, then it would spread much less because people would go get tested, they would go get treated, and they'd stop having it, and therefore they would stop passing it on to other people. But because it is one of those silent STIs, if you will, it just flies around really quickly.
I had an STI check and a smear done because, you have to do those kind of things, and it just came out that I had chlamydia.
I've had actually people say, oh, you don't need to use a condom, I'm on the pill. It's like, well, how do I know you don't have herpes? Just because I'm not going to get you pregnant, I don't want to catch something.
Young people should double up on their contraceptives. So if you're on the pill, if you're on the depot, that's great, but use condoms as well. Being on the pill and being on the depot doesn't stop you catching an STI.
The pill is an easy out for everyone, and it shouldn't be.
If you have had alcohol or perhaps drug use, then you're much less likely to make rational decisions about condom use.
I think that people are a lot less likely to protect themselves when they're drunk, and guys especially are just like, oh, we don't need a condom, let's just do it, And I think that pretty much is why I got it, is because the guy was like, don't even worry, and so I didn't.
People do things they wouldn't normally do, when they're drinking, which probably is something that contributes to it being an epidemic.
Caution gets thrown out the window. And people often say there were condoms there, but in the heat of the moment they didn't use them, or they think they might have used them, and in the morning work out that they probably haven't.
No one disputes condoms are the best protection against chlamydia.
If condoms are used with lubricant, they have about a 98% success rate, if you will. So there's a 2% failure rate with condoms while they're used with lubricant, and so they're very successful around preventing STIs such as chlamydia.
Condoms protect you from 10 different infections or conditions. That's a lot of protection. People say, oh, it doesn't feel the same. I guess it doesn't feel the same, but the reality is if you tell yourself it still feels good and give your head that message, it's going to be fine.
People assume when they meet someone that if they're a good person, they mustn't have an STD.
Young people get together, they'll become sexually active, they might use condoms really well at the start of their relationship. 2 or 3 months down the track, they've got to know each other, they sort of think, oh well, we're okay, we're both nice, clean people, we'll just stop using condoms now. You're on the pill, that's fine, we won't get pregnant. What they weren't aware of, that one of them during that time had chlamydia, wasn't aware of it. 2 months down the track, they stopped using condoms, they passed that chlamydia over. It was my first real girlfriend, the second person I slept with, and I'd been with them for a while, and as far as I knew we were all good, and then broke up with them a while later, found out I had chlamydia, which was pretty gutting.
Because it has no symptoms, there needs to be bigger campaigns to educate people about chlamydia's long-term effects.
A lot of people are uninformed. It's not the easiest thing just to I mean, you don't get TV ads saying chlamydia will make you infertile, get checked out.
I think we should have much larger campaigns nationally. So I think that a lot more money could be put towards it, where there's a lot more sort of national campaigns that are done on TV and that type of stuff, just to heighten that awareness. I mean, when I think back about seatbelt wearing, you know, when I was a kid, no one ever wore seatbelts. I think if we did similar things around chlamydia and STIs, we'd also see a drop-off.
The commonest cause of infertility is something that we call tubal factor infertility.
The most common cause of that is chlamydia, and left untreated it can lead to complications that make it impossible for people to have children. Chlamydia is a big factor in infertility.
An infection that rises up into the upper genital tract, which means the level above the cervix, can go into the uterus and the lining of the fallopian tubes and cause scarring so that they stick together. And so that means an egg or a sperm or a fertilised egg can't pass through the tube.
Although they're not interested in having children just yet, they do realise that in the future that a lot of them at some point will want to do that, and they actually need to look after their reproductive health.
Girls as young as 15 can experience complications from chlamydia, but the problem isn't just isolated to women. Men can also be left infertile if they're not treated early enough.
Because it's so often asymptomatic, and chlamydia, when it starts off, lives in the neck of the bladder, and if it's not diagnosed and treated, after a time it tracks into the reproductive organs, and for men that's into the testicles. And a man may come in here presenting with heavy testicles and feeling as though somebody's got a hand on them and dragging them down, and that's often the first sign that they've actually got that infection. If we hear that sort of symptom, we immediately think test for chlamydia.
We do know from overseas experience that every time you have either very rising rates of chlamydia infection or other STIs, that you always get a secondary increase in the rates of infertility.
Both Rose and James have been caught by chlamydia twice. They have a word of warning.
It's unrecognised and people really should be more careful.
It is really important to get yourself checked out, even if you don't have symptoms, because like I said, if you have slept with someone, haven't been protected, then chances are you may have it, you don't even know.